Hello. Since I'm not here this Shabbat, we won't be having the Shiur in Meshech Chochma. Therefore, I'll be speaking in English and about an interesting insight and commentary of the Meshech Chochma and our Parashat. In our Parashat, we have at the end the story of the Chet of Baal Peor, where Am Yisrael follow the daughters of the Midianim and worship of the Avodah Zarah of Peor. And the Meshech Chochma asks an interesting question. After Chet HaEgel, Moshe Rabbeinu, he calls he says, Mila Hashem Elai, and Bnei Levi come to him, and then he orders them to go and punish all those who have worshipped the Avodah Zarah in Chet HaEgel. So why doesn't Moshe behave the same way here? Why doesn't he call all of Shevet Levi and tell them go and do Kiddush Hashem and punish all those that have committed this terrible sin? And his interesting is, I think, surprising. He explains that at the time of Chet HaEgel, there was no Mishkan. The Levim didn't have yet their designated status of those that work in the Mishkan. But now, at the 40th year of Am Yisrael in the desert, the Mishkan is the place where the Leviim lead the worship of Avodat Hashem. And then people would see the Leviim going and punishing all those who follow the Baal Peor. And they would say the Leviim are not doing this l'shem shamayim, but the reason the Leviim are doing what they're doing is because they have an interest. They want Am Yisrael to stay with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with Hashem, not because of the truth, but because they want to guard their status of those being the spiritual leaders of Am Yisrael. So Moshe couldn't call the Leviim. Pinchas ben Elazar HaKohen, who was not yet considered a Kohen, he wasn't appointed as a Kohen, only his father and his grandfather, but he didn't have this appointment. He wasn't considered a Kohen yet, only afterwards, next parasha, Hineni noten lo et briti shalom. Therefore, Pinchas could be the one who gets up and fights back and works in order to stop the terrible Chilul Hashem of the Avodat Baal Peor. The Meshech Chochma continues this idea in a very surprising way. He explains that this is also the reason that David HaMelech was not allowed to build Beit HaMikdash. He says, Hashem tells him, I took you to be a king. You were a shepherd, and then you became a king. And you can't build the Mikdash. And the Meshech Chochma asks, why not? And the reason, he says, is if David would build Beit HaMikdash, people would say, David is trying to be super holy. He's trying to give himself this name of, I am the builder of Beit HaMikdash, to keep his authority as the king and to bring on his kingship to the next generations. But Shlomo, who was already a king in his own right, he came as he was the heir of David, and he was a king because he was the son of a king. He was completely a king from the beginning. Therefore, he didn't need to do anything to strengthen his position. And then people can see that he's building Beit HaMikdash really because he wants to do Kiddush Hashem, because of the mitzvah of building Beit HaMikdash, because of the special meaning that Beit HaMikdash has for Am Yisrael. And this idea, I think, of doing the correct thing, but on the other hand, to think about how it is perceived by others, is something, it's a tension, I think, that many of us live through in different situations. We have different decisions to make, things that we think are the correct thing to do. And sometimes we would say to ourselves, we don't care how others understand what we're doing, how others will will define our actions. We know that we're doing it for the right reasons, and I'm doing the correct thing. The Meshech Chochma has here a different opinion and a different way of perceiving these situations. He says it's very important to make sure the way maybe in the words of the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, that one has to do things in a way that are tiferet le'osea v'tiferet lo min ha'adam. They are glorifying to the person who's doing it, and that people perceive it in that way. The person has to do the correct thing, but in a way that is perceived correctly by others. Why is this so important? And I think we can think about two different ways of understanding the importance of doing the correct thing only in a way that others perceive it correctly and don't think that I'm doing something just because of um, my own interest that I want to get. And I think one way could be Kiddush Hashem or Chilul Hashem, that people will be suspicious of actions that are spiritual actions, especially that are done, that maybe they're done for the wrong reason, and that instead of bringing people closer to Avodat Hashem, and instead of bringing Kiddush Hashem, it will cause the opposite. It will cause Chilul Hashem. People, instead of coming close to Beit HaMikdash, will feel that Beit HaMikdash has been used by David only to strengthen his position. People will not stay away from Baal Peor, but rather fight back, because they're going to say this is all a fight of interests between Shevet Levi and those following Baal Peor. Only when things are done L'Shem Shamayim in a way that is clear to those watching that that is the meaning of the action, then people come closer to Avodat Hashem. That's one explanation. Another explanation, I think, could be not on the Ben Adam LaMakom level, but on the Ben Adam LeChaviro level. Suspicion, anger, these are things that cause fights, that cause people to be detached one from another. It's the opposite of peace, of shalom. In order for there to be shalom, good connections between us are in one's community, in one's nation, things have to be clear. If someone does something and it's not clear what his intentions are, and suspicion arises, so peace, shalom, has been harmed. And instead of having good connections between people, all we have are fights. And I think we can see this in today's politics, where every side is sure that the other person is doing his whatever action the other person has done, he hasn't done it for ideological reasons, but he has done it from his own action, from his own interest. And then, of course, that leads to a big machloket. People in Am Yisrael feel detached from each other. There's lots of suspicion, anger, and hard feelings. If people would have, if things would be clear to both sides, that things are done l'shem shamayim for ideological reasons, even if there would be a disagreement, I have the feeling that tension would be less strong, and there would be a higher level of understanding and of shalom within Am Yisrael. I wish us all Shabbat Shalom and good health to everyone. I hope that Bezrat Hashem, the corona will not strengthen more than what it has this week. We'll all stick to the health restrictions and stay with Tfilot LaHashem, that we will have again go back to a normal life and not have to be restricted more and more. Shabbat Shalom.